Welcome back to the Faculty Factory podcast. On today's episode, we have Dr. Jennifer Haythornthwaite. Jennifer is a professor in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences here at Johns Hopkins University. Good morning, Jennifer. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks, Kim. How are you?
I'm great. Well, thanks so much for coming and talk with us on the podcast today. We really wanted to use these new episodes to deliver faculty development content to faculty members, particularly junior faculty members we thought might be interested in hearing some content on the fly in an easily accessible format. Say, clicking into the podcast when they're on the treadmill, or in the car, or they're walking around the block. So we're hoping these little faculty development snippets might be little taste tests or samplers for faculty to get some content. So what would you like to talk with us about this morning?
So I thought today I would talk to you about prioritizing and saying no, because I know this is a big challenge that faculty have in their deciding what they say yes to and what they say no, and the decisions that they make on a regular basis. So the first point I thought I would make is that I want everybody to just keep in mind, every time you say yes, you're saying no to something that you're already committed to. And every time you say no, you're saying yes to something you're already committed to.
Yeah.
And so that it just provides a little bit of a balance, that it's not just saying no to some new opportunity that comes along, because you've already got a full plate. Most of us do. And when you say yes to something that comes along, you're actually then saying, no, I'm not going to fulfill a commitment I've already made. Either to myself personally, I'm going to cut back on exercise, I'm going to see less of my family, or professionally, I'm not going to meet a deadline, or I'm not going to get something else done.
Yeah. But what about that, situation where as new faculty members, especially, you're afraid of turning down potential opportunities, and you certainly don't want to be the person who always says no. So how do I as a faculty member ascertain which are things I say yes to and which are things I say no to?
Well, and so that's the next point I wanted to talk about, was how do you prioritize? How do you kind of, in your own sense, know which are the things that you really should be saving your time for and saying yes to, and which are the things that you should really think long and hard about and even say no to if they're not right. And so one of the things that we talk about with the faculty about as a way of trying to understand their own priorities is even thinking about sitting down for some period of time, maybe 15, 20 minutes, and thinking about what your mission statement would look like. And there are worksheets on the web that you can find that'll help you kind of just think about, what is your work about? What is the priority for how you want to have your career unfold? And it doesn't have to be for the rest of your life. It can be for the next couple of years. What are the things that are important to you? And in most mission statements, there's also kind of a focus on what are your values. And values are very important in how we think about what's important to us with our work and our mission.
So some junior faculty members may say, I interviewed to come to Hopkins or come to this institution because I was trained in this or did that in my fellowship, and I'm really good at that. But maybe now I'm in a new culture, a new environment, or NIH or funding priorities have changed, and I don't really know what I should be doing. So I can think of faculty members who come to talk to us, and they're maybe not so crystal clear as to what their mission should be.
Right.
So that's even a stumbling block. They can't, it's harder for them to conceive of. And then they have this kind of anxiety saying, well, if Jennifer Haythornthwaite asked me to do something, maybe she knows something I don't know. Am I missing an opportunity? Even though it doesn't align with my mission, maybe I should rethink this. Should I pivot? Should I?
Well, so there are a couple layers to what you just said. I think that it's very common for people earlier in their career to have a bit of a crisis. Did I make the right choice?
Right.
And especially people if they are well clinically trained and then embarking on a research career and thinking about competing for NIH dollars, or researchers who are kind of losing funding and thinking about what other alternatives they have. So that's one set of circumstances. And that's still, I think, really understanding what gives you purpose and meaning in your work is a very important part of helping you then make decisions about what direction to follow. I don't think people can lose that sense of purpose and meaning for any period of time. For temporary times, we can always deal with things. But if you lose your sense of purpose and meaning in your work, that's a fundamental loss.
Got it.
And won't be a long-term plan. I think the other thing, going back to your, many institutions, it's a cookie jar. There's so many delicious opportunities. And so this is where having a sense of what your mission is, what gives you purpose and meaning, and then really holding yourself accountable to the fact that, yes, somebody else may have something that looks good on the surface, but if it's not consistent with what your kind of current focus is, your pathway, the things that you think are important to your career, then at least you want to have a conversation with that person or a mentor about, how does this fit? Is this a good idea? And that comes to kind of, how do you say no? And with almost every opportunity you're offered, you want to get some distance from the ask. You want to get away from the person asking, do you want to do this?
So you mean physical distance?
Physical distance. You want to get away. You want time distance and physical distance so that you can really spend some time on your own thinking about, is this a good opportunity? Is this something I want to do? You might consult with your peers. You might consult with mentors. What do you think? Is this, how does this fit? And if the answer is no, it's a lot easier to say that not in person. And follow up by email, and to explain then under that circumstance, you want to compliment the person for asking you and thinking about you, and then explain to them that you are not able to meet their timeline, or that you, with competing obligations you already have, you won't be able to meet the expectancy of the opportunity. And then one of the things I say to people is, I'll only disappoint you. I won't be able to make it on time. I won't be able to put the time into it. I don't want to disappoint you. You can turn it into a win-win. You can help them find an alternative person to help with the ask. This can happen if there's a colleague you have that might be interested, or somebody who's junior to you who might be interested in the opportunity. You might shift it so that you take second fiddle on the opportunity and help that younger person. And so it's your opportunity to be a mentor.
Yeah.
So there are a variety of things like that you can do. So saying no. So
walk us through this. If I'm a junior faculty member and I'm in my office and I get a drive-by ask.
Yeah.
And so Jennifer Haythornthwaite's walking down the hallway. She's my mentor. She's a senior professor. NIH funded her whole life. Oh my gosh, Kim, I'm so glad I saw you. I was thinking you'd be perfect to do thus and such. What does the person do?
Wow, that sounds really exciting. Can I set up a meeting to talk to you about it tomorrow or the next day? And I'd love to hear more about it, and I'd love to think about why you think it's such a good opportunity for me, and that'll give me some time to look at my calendar and see what might be possible.
Love it. I love it. So we need to practice that.
Yes, absolutely.
And those of us who are people pleasers, and then when our initial instinct is to say, oh, sure, happy to, and then kick ourselves the rest of the day. So what did I just do? We have to be really smart about knowing where our own weaknesses are and where our tendencies are to recognize that I know I'm going to be the person who says yes and volunteers, and I have to pause, give myself a moment to reflect on that.
Yeah, I think the other part of it to realize is that even your mentor doesn't know all of the things that you're already committed to.
Good point.
So they may think that you're the right person for this and completely forget that this conflicts with another major deadline.
Right.
And so that's the reason that you don't want to kind of get caught up in the moment of somebody else's enthusiasm without taking the time you need to figure out, how does this fit? And it's got to fit in your calendar. It's got to fit with your priorities and your sense of purpose and meaning. And sometimes we need consultations from other people to help us understand that fit.
I love that, caught up in somebody else's enthusiasm. And I think the other component of that is sometimes our faculty members might feel like, how can Jennifer have just asked me that? She knows, as you just said, she knows I've got 1, 2, 3 and ABC going on. I can't believe she just asked me that. Or the flip is that, or I can't believe she asked me that. Doesn't she know that I've got these other things? Or the other thing is, oh, I can't believe she asked. Of course she knows me and she asked me and I'm special and I must be, there's some ulterior motive and I'm being recognized as being a leader and I'm so valuable. So I think there are two opposing ways of humbling ourselves as a junior faculty member and saying, first of all, no, you're not the center of everybody's universe. Right. Jennifer, your mentor or that leader has 1,000 things going on and you are, as humbling as it sounds, you're a bit player in their life. We're all the center of our own universes. So your mentor doesn't necessarily, or probably does not know everything on your plate. Right. And then the flip side of that is, no, maybe you weren't cherry picked as a perfect person for this. And there are other people. So it's an ego thing. There are other people who could be doing this. So don't think, well, she asked me because I'm the only one who could do it. Right. So there's some kind of a middle there of a healthy,
Absolutely. And I think that the real challenge under these circumstances is saying no. Mm-hmm. And so I will say to people, you need to figure it out in your mind and come up with a way of thinking about it. Is it a yes or is it a no? Mm-hmm. And again, I go back to, if you say yes, then you're probably saying no to something you're already committed to because you don't have a lot of free time. Mm-hmm. And if you say no, you're saying yes to those commitments and you can fulfill those commitments. So it's a very important thing to consider of when you're kind of trying to decide, do I say yes or do I say no? And then if you do decide to say no, then it's really important that you be positive with the person, you look for a win-win, and that you persist. You do not back down unless they really provide you with some compelling reason to back down. Because a lot of people will keep at it thinking that they can convince you. And if you show them that you can be convinced, then they've learned that you're that kind of person.
Right. We train people how to treat us.
Yes, absolutely. And so you want to give it some real thought. And then if you're going to say no, you want to stick to it. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean you don't back down. Right. But you don't back down easily. And you need somebody to give you a really compelling argument to back down. And then in that circumstance, you can also, another strategy is, especially if it's a mentor or even a supervisor, is you say to them, well, listen, you really want me to do this thing. You've convinced me that I might be able to do it. Now we need to talk about, before we finalize this, what am I going to give up doing so that I can do this new thing?
That's right.
And again, it's that saying yes to something new means that you're going to say no to something that's already on your plate. So then use that person to identify, well, what am I going to delay? What am I not going to do? What am I going to, who do you have to help me delegate this to so that I can offload this other thing that I'm going to be saying no to?
That's right. And I love that default of, I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint you. I don't want to disappoint you. I like James Clear has a blog that I love, and a kind of a twist on that saying yes and no. He says, when we say no, we're saying no to one thing, but when we say yes, we're saying no to many things. So the idea that when I say yes to this, now I'm potentially losing opportunities to do other things. So you're saying no to just that one thing. But if you're saying yes, you're saying no to lots of other things by virtue of having to shift to doing this other thing. Now you're not able to do these other things. So I think that's so important. That's exactly like what you're saying is recognizing when you do say yes, what does that mean? Something's going to have to recalibrate it. There are consequences, as you always say, there are consequences to everything. And are you willing in this season or period to pay those consequences for that time?
So just to close off the discussion, if you're interested in this topic, a very good book is Essentialism by Greg McKeown. Right. And it's on Audible, it's a wonderful listen, and in print version, it's a quick read. So please refer to that.
Well, this has been a great little snippet here. I hope you enjoyed listening to Dr. Jennifer Haythornthwaite sharing her tips and hints on prioritizing and saying no. If you'd like to get in touch with Dr. Haythornthwaite or invite her to come to your institution, please send me an email at Faculty Factory. Thanks for tuning in to Faculty Factory Podcast. The mission of the Faculty Factory is to build and support a community of leaders in faculty development who share tools, resources, wisdom, and encouragement in service to our faculty members, schools, and institutions. We encourage you to go to facultyfactory.org to find out more, get in touch with me, ask me any questions. Maybe you want to be interviewed on the podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Faculty Factory Podcast. We'll see you next time. The Faculty Factory podcast and website is sponsored by the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine Office of Faculty. For more information, visit facultyfactory.org.